Mineplex, a server which is known by most Minecrafters for good and bad reasons, has been on a steady decline for the past few years. Now, I've talked about some of the reasons why the server has lost players in relation to their game modes and things they have available for players, but one thing I never talked about was the staff. I wanted to stay away from the topic of the staff because a lot of the time the complaints and arguments you hear from disgruntled players who broke the rules and were banned, or biased players who also did something wrong and now have a disdain for the admins. But I spoke with members and staff of Mineplex who are very active and fairly high up in the staff team, and what I learned about recently proved what I've been thinking all along. Mineplex has a dark side, and I'm about to expose it. Now, before we get into the nitty gritty, I need to make some things clear. First of all, Mineplex has two servers, their Java Edition one, which most of you would know, but also their Bedrock server, which has decent popularity as well. While the servers are for different players, the Mineplex top level staff team is responsible for both. As you may know from my previous videos, when the Bedrock server came out, the Mineplex development team split in two, and this is commonly believed to be the reason why many of Mineplex game modes are no longer maintained, because there weren't enough staff to update and fix them. But anyways, let's get on with it. So let's talk about the big thing which happened on Mineplex only about a week ago now. An active player in the Mineplex Bedrock scene, NothingButNet, recently shared with me that a whole bunch of staff were retiring, as well as a lot of community members quitting or being banned from the server. You see, the Bedrock Mineplex server has even more issues than the Java Edition one, with so many unpatched glitches and exploits and broken game modes. One of the higher up members of the staff team, a senior mod who is well known in the Bedrock community and who would often communicate with players the most, named BJD1126, sent me some information. BJD had recently been in contact with one of the Mineplex network owners, Strut20, who is not only responsible for the Bedrock server, but also for the Java Edition server. BJD was considered by many players one of the most active staff members in the community, and he relayed and told the owner a bunch of issues which players had with the server and things that he thought they could improve on. Instead of getting a nice kind response, or even something along the lines of "we are working on it" from Strut, BJD was told that he was out of touch, didn't know anything, and that he was basically useless as a mod. Strut basically told him he was a useless staff member and didn't know what he was talking about. BJD screenshotted the conversation and sent it to other staff members and other prominent community members such as NothingButNet. He told me that he felt disrespected and as if the owners didn't care for him or all the time and effort he would put into the server. Moderators don't get paid, and they often do a lot of work behind the scenes, especially senior mods, which doesn't get recognized, so you can see why BJD was upset. As I mentioned, at the time, many players regarded him as the most active staff member, one of the only ones which would talk to the wider community, as well as one of the only people who would make events fun and enjoyable. BJD was demoted not too long after for sharing private messages, and lots of staff in the community disliked this. They formed a Discord where they would go to discuss and talk about the many issues Mineplex had. During one of these discussions, however, a trusted member recorded the voice chat and uploaded it to YouTube for an admin to see. A day later, almost all of the people talking had either been demoted from their staff roles or had been network banned from the server. Here is a list of all the players which NothingButNet told me either resigned or were demoted, and ignore the two at the top for now, I'll talk about them later. Some of these players were also mods on the Java Edition server and had been in the community for multiple years. They were all demoted just because they were discussing ideas and things they could do to improve the server, which is actually benefiting Mineplex, not harming them. So this is the issue. Players and staff members tried to talk about how they could make the server better and how they could improve on the issues it had, and instead of the higher up staff listening or taking into account some of their ideas, they just banned or demoted them and told them that they didn't know what they were talking about. NothingButNet told me that he tried to appeal his network ban and it was declined within 24 hours, which is very unusual as it normally takes staff about 1 to 2 weeks to respond to a ban appeal. He believed that they didn't even look at his appeal and just instantly denied it. There is a lack of communication between players and staff of Mineplex. This is one of the main reasons which has led to their downfall. So, the key point we should take away from this whole situation is that one of the most popular and well-respected staff members, who was known to actively communicate with the broader community, was demoted for trying to improve the server. Mineplex, as I mentioned on the Bedrock Edition, is plagued by bugs, glitches and exploits, and whenever players try to suggest fixes, they often get ignored or even banned as we have just seen. But this is also a problem on the Java Edition server. As you know, Mineplex used to be significantly more popular than it is now, and has lost almost 90% of its player base which it once had in 2015. Now, while there are multiple other reasons why the server has lost players, reasons which I have already covered in other videos, a factor which has definitely contributed to it is the staff and their reluctance to listen to the community and fix problems. But another thing which I didn't talk about is staff abuse, which many people in the comments of my videos and also many people on the Mineplex forums complain about. I didn't talk about it as I didn't have any evidence. Well, now I do. 2 or 3 months ago now, an admin who was mainly involved with Mineplex's Clans game mode, a game mode with similarity of factions, was demoted. Many Clans players would often talk about how he would abuse his powers and favoured some players over others. The admin, named Grandpa Nguyen, had a sort of infamy amongst players on the server. I was contacted by a Mineplex moderator who asked to remain anonymous, and he told me that Grandpa Nguyen's reputation on the server slowly diminished, and, in his words, if I'm being honest, I didn't really like him. There were moderators who he clearly favoured, and players who he'd always show favouritism towards. This could be promoting a mod to the clan's management assistant sub-team just one day after they got promoted to mod. There were also apparent messages that he would send to people which were quite weird. There were even pedophile allegations, although I'm not too sure if they are true. He also went on to say that Grandpa Nguyen added rules to clans that a lot of players disliked. Anyone talking bad about the rules or doing something minor may have been banned for admin-only reasons, in which a lot of players were network banned or banned for a long period of time for. So what actually happened? Well, if you search up his name on YouTube, about half a dozen videos pop up. The main issue which I found, which lined up with the issue the moderator talked about, is his clear favoritism towards some players. On clans, if you kill another player in another clan, your clan gains a war point against them, and if you accumulate enough war points, you can raid their clan. However, if you die by lava, fall damage, or other environmental forms of damage, your clan does not lose a war point. This is a punishable offense, however, called war point evading. Now this brings us to the favoritism. There is a video on YouTube of two players, Poriel and Linegraph, war point evading by different methods. The player Poriel just logged off, and the other player Linegraph, who has also been caught war point evading multiple times before this, jumped into lava intentionally. When players contacted Grandpa Nguyen with the evidence, the player who logged off Poriel was banned, but Linegraph was not. When questioned why, Grandpa Nguyen supposedly said that Linegraph's method of war point evading, jumping into lava, was allowed, even though multiple players had been banned for doing the same thing previously. Then 2 weeks later, the rule was changed again, and the offense was now bannable. So why did he wait 2 weeks? Well, Mineplex has a rule that evidence cannot be used against a player after 2 weeks, so Grandpa Nguyen waited until Linegraph was in the clear and then changed the rule back. It's super obvious that the rules were bent for this one specific player, which is clear favoritism and abuse of power. This is not an isolated issue, however, and many other players have complained about Grandpa Nguyen's abuse and unfair treatment of players before this. Another example is Grandpa Nguyen network banning players with evidence from Discord, which supposedly isn't allowed, but then refusing to accept Discord messages or other information on Discord as evidence for a ban or for an appeal. It's very two-faced and hypocritical. Now, the moderator who contacted me did say that there were pedophile allegations, but the one video which he linked me to lacks sufficient evidence, so I will not talk about this issue. But I will say one thing. Not too long after this video was made, Grandpa Nguyen was demoted from the staff team for unknown reasons, making it very suspicious as to the reason why. Mineplex has had multiple problems with staff members in the past, abusing their powers or treating players unfairly, and I think that there is a greater reason behind this. Mineplex lacks significant security when it comes to hiring new mods or helpers, and they don't pay attention to the staff they hire as much as they used to. Often, previously banned players who were banned for cheating or community disruption, or even demoted staff, have been able to make new alts and build new reputations and gain staff once again. This leads to an overall lower quality of staff members, and could be why staff abuse is significantly more common now than it was back when the server was much more popular. In a certain situation which occurred not too long ago, a player named Hyde had gotten multiple player accounts banned for donating to them and then charging back the donation. He was hated in the community, and many players disliked him. He was eventually caught and network banned, but on Mineplex, if you wait a year, you can appeal and be unbanned. The issue here is that he was unbanned after only about 10 months. The player who had a long history of toxicity and community disruption was unbanned early by staff who didn't know any better and didn't do any research into him or his ban history. This upset many members of the community, and even alerting the staff that he hadn't been banned for a year, they didn't reban him or punish him once more. But even worse, the player Hyde openly admitted to playing on an alt while he was banned, which is a bannable offense, and yet the staff still ignored the evidence as it was Discord messages, yet they will happily use Discord messages to ban people when it suits their agenda. I hope you're starting to see the problem with Mineplex here. The staff are inconsistent and will often punish innocent players, while those who deserve to be banned do not. Higher up staff often fail to take into account what the community is saying, and often refuse to listen to any feedback on the state of the server or things that can be improved. This is one of the reasons why Mineplex has gone down the drain the past few years. They don't listen to their community. And now, with that said, this brings me to my final point. You may have seen in the picture earlier that 2 high up staff, and I'm talking really high up, resigned about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Apple G, who was one of the network's owners, and Alex Dakota, who was one of the network's main developers and leaders. The reason for resignation is unknown, and of course they may want to move on and do other things with their life, but the fact that they both resigned at the same time points to an issue in my opinion. It's just too much of a coincidence that two really high up staff decided to resign at the same time. If I had to put a theory together, it would be that there was some sort of internal issue within the Mineplex staff team, specifically higher up, and certain players are fed up with what's happening with the server and have decided to step away. So what are Mineplex going to do? The community is more angry than ever, they have lost more staff than ever, and their play counts are lower than ever. And now some of the higher up staff are leaving. It seems to me that Mineplex is headed down a dark road, and unless something is done and they start listening to the community, their future is bleak. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Be sure to subscribe and comment any incidents you've had on Mineplex. Thank you so much for watching.